I met Daniel my sophomore year at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Back then, I was the kind of girl who'd stay late at the library and still wake up early to run along the Huron River. I was chasing a double major in psychology and communications, so dating wasn't exactly on my radar. But life has this funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. Daniel and I crossed paths at a campus volunteer fair. He was standing by the Habitat for Humanity booth, cracking jokes with everyone who walked by. He had this easy smile, kind of goofy but in a sweet way. We got to talking about volunteering over spring break, and before I knew it, he'd convinced me to sign up to build houses down in Kentucky. Our first real conversation wasn't anything out of a movie. No fireworks or slow motion glances. We just sat on the steps of the Michigan Union after the fair ended, drinking burnt coffee from the cafe downstairs, swapping stories about our hometowns. He was from Grand Rapids, oldest of three boys, obsessed with the Detroit Lions, even though they broke his heart every season. I liked how open he was. No pretending, no games. By the time spring break rolled around, we'd gotten closer. We'd meet up at Espresso Royale to plan our trip, but mostly just ended up talking about life. That week in Kentucky, hammering nails and painting walls all day, we'd sneak off during lunch breaks to sit on the tailgate of the truck and share sandwiches. I didn't realize it then, but I was falling for him. In that quiet, steady way you don't notice until it's too late to back out. When we got back to Ann Arbor, Daniel asked me out, officially. Our first date was at Frida Batidos, this little Cuban burger place downtown. We sat there for hours, talking about everything from our worst childhood haircuts to our big dreams after college. I remember thinking, this is it. This feels right. We dated through the rest of college. For 3 years, Daniel was my best friend and my safe place. He'd leave me little notes in my backpack before exams, and I'd surprise him with his favorite cider donuts from Dexter Cider Mill. He wasn't perfect. He'd forget dates and sometimes get too wrapped up in his engineering classes, but he made me feel seen and loved in a way no one else had. After graduation, we both landed jobs in Detroit. I started working at a nonprofit focused on youth mental health, and Daniel got hired at an automotive design firm. We moved into a tiny apartment in Midtown. It wasn't much. The floors creaked, the oven barely worked, but it felt like hours. Things were good, until they weren't. It started small. He'd come home later and later, always blaming tight deadlines or grabbing drinks with coworkers. At first, I believed him. I wanted to believe him. We'd always trusted each other. But then the late nights turned into entire weekends where he'd say he was working off-site, but never let me come by. I'd catch glimpses of texts on his phone from Jamie, a girl from his office. When I asked, he brushed it off. "We're just friends, Em. Don't be paranoid." But the pit in my stomach wouldn't go away. I started noticing little things. The way he'd turn his phone face down when I walked in. How he suddenly cared about putting on cologne before working late. I didn't want to be the jealous girlfriend, so I kept convincing myself it was nothing. That maybe I was overthinking. But one Friday night, though, everything cracked open. He told me he'd be working late again. I decided to surprise him with dinner, his favorite Thai from Orchid Thai in Royal Oak. I drove over to his office around 8, figuring I'd leave the food on his desk and maybe catch a ride home together. But when I pulled into the parking lot, his car was gone. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the empty spot, hoping he'd just run out for coffee or something. But he didn't come back. So I called. And called. No answer. I don't know what possessed me, but I drove over to Jamie's apartment. I'd only been there once for a holiday party, but I remembered where it was. When I pulled up, his car was there, parked right out front. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, clutching that stupid bag of pad thai. Part of me wanted to march up and bang on the door, but instead I just sat there, frozen, while my brain caught up with my heart. When he finally came home the next morning, I didn't even ask. He didn't offer. He just crawled into bed like nothing had happened. And that's when it hit me. I couldn't do it. I couldn't be the girl who begged him to stay. So I packed a bag, grabbed my toothbrush, my laptop, and my favorite mug, and I left. I crashed on my friend Rachel's couch for a while. She fed me ice cream and didn't let me drunk text him at 2 a.m. I'd love to say I bounced back right away, but the truth is, I didn't. I missed him every single day. Not him exactly, but the version of us I thought we were. I kept replaying those nights on the truck tailgate, those scribbled notes, the plans we'd made to buy a little house in Ferndale someday. I felt stupid for believing in forever when forever turned out to have an expiration date. The thing about heartbreak, though, is it forces you to look at yourself in ways you don't want to. I realized I'd spent so much of my life being the girl who made everyone else feel okay that I'd stopped asking what I needed. So I did something for me. I applied to grad school out in Seattle, a city I'd always dreamed of, but never had the guts to move to. 6 months later, I packed up my little Hyundai and drove across the country. No plan, no boyfriend waiting for me on the other side. Just me, my playlist, and the hope that maybe starting over could be the best thing I ever do. It's been 2 years since then. I still think about Daniel sometimes. Not in a way that hurts, more like a faded scar you rub absent-mindedly. I don't hate him. I don't even hate Jamie. I don't know if they stayed together, and honestly, I don't care. These days, I wake up to the sound of rain on my window in Capitol Hill. I drink my coffee at a little cafe called Porchlight, where the barista knows my name. I'm almost done with my master's in counseling psychology. I volunteer at a shelter on weekends, helping girls who feel stuck like I once did. If there's anything I'd want someone listening to this to know, it's this. Sometimes the person you think you can't live without leaves you no choice but to find out that you can. And when you do, it's terrifying and freeing all at once. So here's to heartbreak, and to the tiny, brave part of us that knows, even in the middle of the mess, we're gonna be okay.